While we've still yet to receive official word on when the first episode of the Thousand Year Blood War arc Core 4 is going to arrive for those of us who aren't able to view it in theatres, it looks as though the air date may have leaked early, and it's a bit later than I expected, to be totally honest. If this leak is accurate, and bear in mind it is only a leak for now, this is not official and therefore could still be subject to change, then the first episode of Core 4, The Calamity, looks set to air on July 25th. So that's potentially a pretty big piece of news right there, and I have a bit more to say on that in a moment. There's more Bleach news to come though, with things starting to move across the board as we gear up for the arrival of the final season, which promises to be pretty big. As a result, I wanted to throw together something of a Bleach news update video. We don't do these too often, but it feels like there is a lot going on, and that way we can all be on the same page going into the second half of June and beyond, when things are really going to start heating up. Before we do, if you want to support this channel an extra step, consider checking out the Patreon down in the description below. Everyone who's appearing on the screen right now is supporting me over there as a patron, and your support is greatly appreciated, so thank you to each and every one of you so very much. It does mean a lot, and it is helping out enormously. So, first up, that Core 4 date. This news comes from Reddit user Arturo Plateado, who we've cited here before on the channel, as they shared what appears to be confirmation of the July 25th air date, revealed via official promotion on the Line manga app. For those who don't know, Line is a hugely popular Japanese social networking and instant messaging platform, and Arturo Plateado shared a source link on the Reddit post too, which I've also linked to down in the description. Now again, bear in mind that this is just a rumour as of now. I mean, it looks pretty official to me, and I certainly would not be surprised if this kind of news was already trickling into and making its way around channels such as Line. But for now, I'm acting on the basis that this is still unconfirmed. But let's say that it is real, that it is confirmed. What if July 25th really is the air date for the first episode of Core 4? Well, truth be told, that's a lot further away than I anticipated. I mean, sure, it's still July, which to their credit is all they've officially said, but I guess I was expecting at least the first half of the month. You know, July 25th is over a month and a half or so away still at this point, which feels pretty crazy. And even crazier is the fact that it feels like we've seen so little still from Core 4. And don't get me wrong, I have always said, and I still say, that I want them to take as long as necessary to get this absolutely right and deliver the best ending to the Thousand Year Blood War arc that not only have we ever seen, but frankly the arc deserves, that Kubo deserves. And really this longing for an earlier date only comes from a position of us all being, well, so collectively excited. But I also can't help but feel we are still due a major trailer for The Calamity, and I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. Now, I don't have inherent issues with the core starting on July 25th, save for one: the theatre release. If this is the true air date, then it means Core 4 won't begin for an entire month after some fans have already seen the first 3 episodes in cinemas, which I can't help but think feels a little absurd to me. Now again, I guess in a way it makes sense. The core airs exactly 1 month after the theatre release, but at the same time, why such a long wait? Why such a big gap between the two? Not only do those of us unable to go to the cinema, and yes, I'm speaking for myself currently, have to dodge spoilers for episodes 41, 42, and 43 for 4 weeks, but it's also a weird system for those who get to see those episodes early too. Because if June 25th is the air date of the first episode, then it technically means that those who see the first 3 episodes early then have to wait almost 2 months for anything new thereafter. Once they've seen the first 3 episodes, they'll then have to wait another month to watch those 3 episodes again. Only this time they'll be spread out over the course of 3 weeks, unless of course they do some kind of crazy drop, where when we hit the official air date they drop all 3 at the same time, though I don't think that's going to happen. And for my workload, I kind of hope it doesn't. And of course, none of these are reasons for them not to make July 25th the air date, but still, it kind of feels like one of those situations where it's a bit of a lose-lose ultimately for the team at the end of the day. But at the same time, we've waited this long, we can keep waiting. And like I said earlier, the community's only dying to see this because A, we've waited so long at this point, but also B, because we're so excited, I think, just to see this arc wrapped up in a potentially different, fresh and exciting way. But also, like I said earlier, I still think there's a chance for another trailer. Like a pretty good chance. I mean, surely they're going to use a trailer to reveal the opening and ending songs, right? I mean, just like they have done with each core in the past. And that still hasn't happened yet for Core 4. So unless they are really working down to the wire behind the scenes and these things haven't been hashed out yet, then I think it's coming. Speaking of a trailer, when might it happen? Well, that ties in nicely to our next point, our next news update. July 4th is the date of Bleach's Anime Expo panel, and Reset Era user Neonzel, again another friend of the channel who we've cited many times here before in the past, has broken down a bunch of potential updates that we might see there, including their own speculation, which I thought was interesting too. For starters, we received the final piece of Ichigo artwork for the Stories series of interviews, the artwork that mimics that same artwork Kubo did in the manga around the time of the Deicide arc, if I remember correctly, because it kind of teased the arrival of Dangai Ichigo at the end. But this artwork and the Stories series of interviews are culminating with the 1000-Year Blood War arc, unsurprisingly, on July the 4th. So that's the same date as the Anime Expo. And so working under the assumption that the July 25th date is still merely a rumour, Neonzel wonders if Core 4 might actually begin airing on the 4th after all, which would only be a week after showing in theatres, and that kind of makes sense to me. But if the July 25th date is legitimate after all, then it stands to reason that Bleach's Anime Expo on July 4th is a good bet for that final trailer. Now, I'm actually on holiday around then, so I may have to do a reaction or a series of reactions depending on how much we get from a different location if that comes to pass. And let's face it, with my track record and the start of these 1000-Year Blood War arc cores, it's probably going to happen. Regardless, that's all the latest around the mysterious air date of the 1000-Year Blood War arc Core 4. There's a lot going on, but at the moment I'm erring towards July 25th being the official date, as the line leak seems fairly spot on to me, but again, I'm totally open to that not being correct. Getting a trailer on the 4th would be cutting it much closer than usual, I think, but either way, July looks like it's going to be very busy. Before we continue, if you haven't yet hit subscribe, consider doing so today. For you, it's quick, it's easy, and it's free. For me, it helps out the channel enormously, and it pushes us ever closer to our goal of 300,000 subs. So, again, if you want to help out, maybe you're new here, if you just haven't hit that button yet, consider doing so. I would greatly appreciate it. Moving on, Neonzel also posted an update about Bleach Mirrors High, an upcoming new mobile game that we still don't really know anything about, beyond Kubo having some fairly hefty involvement with it. A countdown has now appeared on the game's official website, leading to, you guessed it again, July 4th. So it seems likely that Mirrors High will be a part of the Anime Expo showing for the series, and that we'll probably get a first look trailer at the game as well. Neonzel also notes that the game is apparently going to be playable for the first time too at Jump Victory Carnival on July 19th and the 25th, so there's a good chance we'll also see gameplay during the reveal, especially since people will be going hands-on with Mirrors High only a few weeks later. Mirrors High is very interesting to me, as I think I've said in the past. I can't help but feel the game is getting a level of spotlight, considering we've seen and know basically nothing beyond the norm for these kinds of mobile games, and a lot of that is likely down to, as I mentioned before, Kubo's high level of involvement. The last time we heard anything about the game, I think, when we also received a very cryptic teaser trailer, Kubo had this to say about how he's been involved in the creation process. For this project, I have been involved from the kickoff meeting and worked on the title, scenario, and character designs. As for character designs, I got so excited working on them and ended up doing more than what was requested. For the logo design, I wanted to come up with something that resembles my style. I made it simple, yet something that will leave an impression the moment you see it. I sat in on the audition and also took part in the recording sessions, so the characters turned out just as I imagined. The story is partly related to the main scenario of the comics, so I hope you look forward to that too. Of course, that level of involvement from Kubo does immediately make Mirrors High that bit more interesting than the other mobile games on the market. Now, of course, Kubo's been involved with them as well to varying degrees. Brave Souls, for example, he oversaw the designs of the Can't For Your Own World and Spirits Are Forever With You promotional tie-ins, the Beyond Bankai and Hogyoku Evolved Shinigami and Espada respectively, but this feels like it's going another step further. This sounds to me like it's designed to be canon, maybe? The fact that Kubo says that it is partially related to the main scenario of the comics, that makes me think that this is canon, perhaps? And he's talking about auditions, he's talking about characters turning out the way he wants them to, so I'm assuming that's new characters involved somehow? I have no idea. Now, I think I remember rightly my theory at the time was that Mirrors High might be some kind of digital Bleach TCG. I have absolutely no idea. That's total speculation on my part, but I wouldn't be averse to it at all. And I'm more thinking from the perspective of, what is there still room for in the Bleach mobile game space without these games starting to cannibalize each other? We know we've just got Bleach Soul Resonance, which is a more high-quality action RPG style game, very similar to other games of the genre, like, I guess, Zenless Zone Zero, that sort of thing. It feels like it's got a bit more of a budget behind it, I guess. And then, of course, we've got the stalwart Bleach Brave Souls. We also had Bleach Soul Puzzle, which I believe shut down fairly recently. So Mirrors High is going to have to find a new niche for itself among what's already a pretty busy slate of mobile games. You know, we've got Brave Souls, we've got Soul Resonance. You know, what kind of room is still left over? I can't help but feel like a digital TCG fits the bill pretty nicely. Bleach has one of the best rosters of characters ever. I certainly wouldn't be against it, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. I have no idea. And finally, to round out this very brief news update video, I just wanted to share some spotlight on the other mobile game I just mentioned, Bleach Soul Resonance, which I've been enjoying a lot, and I think the game has managed to carve out its own niche among the other Bleach media. I think it looks fantastic. I think the production values are pretty top-notch. But now, though, it seems the game is leapfrogging a lot of the story content that it has yet to cover in order to catch up to the 1,000-Year Blood War arc in time for Core 4's release. Reddit user Sosuke Aizen posted over on the Soul Resonance subreddit that the game will be introducing 1,000-Year Blood War arc content on July 15th, with the arrival of true Shikai Ichigo, and based on the image provided, what looks to be Stern Ritter Uryu arriving at some point later on. It definitely feels like there is some behind-the-scenes turmoil in regards to Soul Resonance and the schedule by which it releases characters. I've not really kept up with it, but I know the order in which characters have been released has been a little bit wacky, with the license holders, I think, maybe playing hardball with some of the characters, but this is still a cool reveal for the game, and something I think players have been wanting to help make Soul Resonance feel a bit more relevant, I guess. I know I've certainly been waiting for post-time skip stuff to turn up. At this point, I feel like I've played a million Bleach games that are stuck in the pre-time skip era. And I get it, especially if you want to release content chronologically and make the most of all that story, but this is the stuff that I'm always the most excited to see. The 1,000-Year Blood War arc DLC characters were by far and away the most exciting part of Rebirth of Souls for me as well. And ultimately, this is what really got me into Brave Souls 2 all those years ago, when the first wave of 1,000-Year Blood War tie-in characters were announced back in like 2017. Kyoraku, Hitsugaya, I think Komamura, and Byakuya. And then I kind of fell out of love with the game, only to get back into the game when the first wave of Stern Ritter were announced, Askin, Bambietta, and Candice, which was at the start of this channel's kind of rebirth. So, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I think it's cool that Soul Resonance is getting 1,000-Year Blood War arc content. It's, again, not something I'm going to say no to. Alright, but that's it for this fairly brief Bleach news roundup. This felt like an ideal time for it. Like I said, loads of stuff is happening. Things are being set into motion. July is going to be so busy for this franchise, and I am pretty much indisposed the first week or so of July, so that's going to be fun. Like I said, I will try and get some videos out just from a different location. I guess I'm going to have to make that work somehow. Obviously, I don't want to miss this sort of thing, especially if we do get a trailer for Core 4, the main trailer for Core 4 coming out maybe on the 4th. I have no idea. My thoughts are all over the place. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How do you feel about July 25th potentially being the air date for the first episode of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc Core 4? If you're going to see it in theaters potentially a month early, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about then waiting almost 2 months for episode 4. I'd love to get all of your thoughts down in the comments below. No matter how you're going to be approaching the final season, do let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd absolutely love to hear them. Let me know your thoughts about Mirrors High. Are you excited to see more about that game? Are you playing Bleach Soul Resonance? No matter what, let me know down in the comments. Alright everyone, once again, thank you so very much for watching. Apologies, this is a bit of a shorter one today, but I felt like it kind of had to be done. Make sure to check out my last video I released looking at Askin and the death dealing my boy Askin, only because I had to release this video much closer to it than I was expecting to. I didn't expect to do this today, so that video, I don't want it to get, lost in the weeds, essentially. So make sure to go and check that out if you haven't done already. Again, I'll leave the link to that in the pinned comment down below. I would really appreciate it. And of course, that will help you get prepared for the 1000-Year Blood War Arc Core 4, as well as Askin and the Death Dealing. Going to play a pretty big role early on in that new season. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already. And of course, check out the Patreon, as well as I said before. All of your support over there is making a massive difference. It does help me out so very much. And again, I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, until next time, I'll catch you later. And I'll see you then.